continues to maintain, as recently as yesterday on Fox Business Channel with Maria Bartiromo, that the bombs that he dropped 2 Saturday nights ago totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. His Secretary of Defense has repeated that mantra. Is there any evidentiary basis to make these claims?
So what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We are now covering Judge Napolitano with Scott Ritter, talking about this, claim of, I believe that was Pete Hegseth, actually, but it's been the Trump administration saying that they actually did get rid of all of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and but when you look at the news, if you're paying attention to articles, you will see that there's actually a bit of a conflict with that statement. So without further ado, we'll go right into Scott Ritter and Judge Napolitano talking about this, and then we'll go into Twitter and see what we have there with this topic, get some other sources of information as well. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you.
There's, I guess, circumstantial evidence, meaning that, according to Pete Hegseth, on the Fordo facility, it's been studied now over the course of many years by 2 DARPA scientists who, have postulated a theoretical scenario involving ventilation shafts and the precision application of GBU-57 bombs that could hypothetically produce a result that, in theory, could have caused collapse or thermal destruction of centrifuges contained inside the Fordo facility. So the B-2s dropped the requisite number of bombs. Photographic imagery shows the bombs landed approximately where they're supposed to. I mean, according to the president and Pete Hegseth, the size of a refrigerator door. I haven't seen any evidence to sustain that, but the point is he doesn't know because they have no way of knowing what happened inside. There's theories about what could have happened, vibrations, collapse, heat, but they simply don't know. What we do know is that the Iranians are in the process of excavating into the facility. Remember, they filled up the tunnels before the strike. And so they're in the process of gaining access, and whether or not they choose to share what they find with us is their business. But what we do know also is that the president simply doesn't know, has no idea, no way of knowing. He is acting on a theory that was put forward by 2 scientists. I've dealt with a lot of people who put forward theories. I've put forward theories. Theories don't always play out. Reality is is a tough mistress, and it just doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. But we also know that there's 2 other, the big 3 facilities, Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. Natanz had been struck by the Israelis. This is a shallower underground facility, and nobody believed that it could withstand, big bunker busters. This is where the older centrifuges were kept, and it appears that significant damage has been done to the Natanz facility. And if the president wants to take credit for, applying 2 bombs on top of the numerous bombs that Israel dropped on it to say obliteration, so be it. But one of the most critical facilities in all of Iran is the Isfahan facilities, the nuclear research institutes, and such. These are located very far underground, so far that Trump didn't even try to hit them with the bunker busters because they just would have bounced off. This is where the uranium conversion takes place. This is where you make metal, convert the feedstock once it's enriched to a level that you want. Let's say if it's a weapon over 90%, you turn it into a metal. These weren't touched at all. Trump fired 34 cruise missiles against surface targets, but the critical infrastructure deep inside wasn't touched, wasn't impacted. Nobody even tried because you can't get to it. So now we take this critical conversion facility with the ability to make the metal, and we note the following: 400 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride enriched to 60% is missing and nobody knows where it is. The Iranians said they secured it and it wasn't impacted by the strikes. And there's no reason to contradict that. We know that since January, February of 2021, Iran has been producing centrifuges that are no longer accounted for by the International Atomic Energy Agency because Donald Trump withdrew from the JCPOA, in which accounting for centrifuges was one of the critical aspects of monitoring. And because we withdrew and because we encouraged the European nations not to engage in the required economic interaction that the agreement said, the Iranians followed through with what the agreement allows. If one or more parties are not abiding by what the JCPOA says, then the other parties are not held to their commitments. And so Iran said, we're no longer bound by this, and they began to withdraw. In 2021, they stopped letting people count for the centrifuges. You can build a lot of centrifuges in 4 years. Iran has over a dozen buried sites around Iran, similar to Fordow, that easily can be converted. In fact, they were in the process of declaring a third uranium conversion facility when the bombing took place.
So here's the thing, right? The information that Scott Ritter is providing right now is very important to understand. The thing is, because there are some people sometimes who say, why do we even need to make agreements with these people? They should just listen to us if we tell them not to do X, Y, Z. Okay, that doesn't work in real life. You're dealing with a real life situation, so therefore you should have agreements where it's like, if you are enriching uranium and doing all of that, then can we come in and see what's going on? And the fact that these other countries say, okay, let's just keep the agreement going. But other people will say that, no, you having that agreement tells them that they can do it. No, they weren't doing it. By that agreement, they said they're not doing it. Now, the enrichment, the nuclear type of energy, they probably were using it for like energy. Not probably, they were using it for, it's an energy source. But if we were allowed to go in and we saw that nothing fishy was happening, that's a good thing. This is called diplomacy. It's not about, you're being weak. It's not that. If you really believe that people are going to do what they want to do anyway, why not have an agreement where you go make sure that they're not going to do it? And that's what we had, and that was ripped up, and we know all the talk about that. But now it's even worse because Iran is, after being, struck at, they're saying we don't want anybody coming in anymore. And the reality is, we don't know where their uranium. We don't know where the enrichment, where everything is. That's just the reality. And so now you have, and like you have the New York Post reporting saying some enriched uranium survived U.S. strikes on Iran nuclear sites. It is still accessible, senior Israeli official. So now Israel is telling, and this is coming from yesterday, Israel is telling, the U.S., hey, we actually didn't get all the sites, right? People were already saying this right after everything went down, after the 12-day war. People were already saying this, but the administration was saying, if whoever was reporting that all the sites weren't obliterated, and that was the term, that those people would be sued, and the left-wing media kind of talk, that kind of thing. But now, because we see that Netanyahu has been in Washington, and then this is the reports. I'm not hearing anything about anybody being sued. Let's just look at this. Coming from the New York Post of all places, it was really odd to kind of see this here because New York Post doesn't really, get into. Well, now they do, right? All news is news. One thing I will say is that things like geopolitical news and regular politics is just, it's all like a big show nowadays. So everybody's reporting on it, and it is what it is. Like you could see something like this in a Vogue magazine now. Okay, so just making you aware. All right, so this is Washington. Parts of Iran's stockpile near weapons-grade enriched uranium survived last month's U.S. airstrike and could be accessed by Tehran's nuclear engineers, according to a senior Israeli official. Though the Islamic Republic nuclear, I don't know why. Sorry. Though the Islamic Republic's nuclear program was set back at least 2 years, the official told reporters in a Wednesday briefing, the Jewish state's assessment is that some of the 60% enriched uranium at Isfahan, apparently buried too deep to hit, remains accessible as stockpiles as are stockpiles at other sites. Now, that's what Scott Ritter was just talking about, saying how Isfahan was huge. The fact that like everything was buried so deep, they didn't even try to hit it. So now we're allowed to kind of talk about this, right? So then it goes ahead and says, sorry guys. Israel continues to monitor whether Iran is trying to root out the enriched uranium, the official noted, adding that any attempt to do so would be very difficult. While the Israeli military had kept a close eye on Tehran's nuclear program for years, the official said that Iranian efforts to build an atomic weapon had stepped up following the killing of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah this past September. At one point, Tehran had even considered dispatching an armed nuclear weapon with 90% enriched uranium to Houthi terror. I'm not using that word on YouTube because to Houthis in Yemen to be fired at Israel, the official added. The U.S. strikes by B-2 bombers June 21. So I swear people writing this decimated the nuclear facilities in Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow. But see, this is odd because Scott Ritter said they didn't even try. There's always a gray area. The last hidden half a mile under the mountain had been preceded by Israeli airstrikes that killed high-ranking Iranian military leaders and at least 14 nuclear scientists. But the extent of the damage to Iran's nuclear program has been disputed by President Trump, members of his cabinets, and other experts. Monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. Trump posted this on True Social on June 22nd. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below the level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye. The impact of those bombs buried under the mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in June 25. And we're almost done. The same day, in a more cautiously worded statement, CIA Director John Ratcliffe said that his agency could confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program had been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. The strikes included 14 bunker buster bombs, each weighing 30,000 pounds, that were sent down from B-2 bombers as a part of an unprecedented 18-hour stealth mission that included multiple in-flight refuelings. The Israel Atomic Energy Commission, in a statement, said afterwards that the Fordow site was rendered inoperable as a result that, along with Israel's military attacks, the bombings had set back Tehran's nuclear ambitions by many years. Both were almost done, so I just like to let y'all know that. Both Israel and U.S. officials have insisted that Iranians weren't able to move any enriched uranium out of the facilities before the strikes, after satellite imagery showed cargo-style truck lined up outside of Fordow days ahead of the attack. But if they had the trucks out there, I would say that they probably were moving things. But there were also consensus among the allies that Tehran's working centrifuge at Natanz and Fordow were damaged beyond repair, an assessment shared by the IAEA director. It has suffered enormous damage, Grossi told Radio France. With these reduced capabilities, it would be much more difficult for Iran to continue the same pace as before. But the IAEA aren't allowed to even go back then. So I don't know how they're going to have that information. As President Trump has said many times, Operation Midnight Hammer, I guess that's what they call it, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities, while, White House spokesperson Anna Kelly said in a statement, the entire world is safer thanks to this decisive leadership. The Pentagon and the CIA did not respond to requests, so they didn't respond to requests from the New York Post. And the thing that you need to know about this is that, there are a lot of back and forth, like information coming out of different directions. But what I will say is that this leaves things open to another strike. Allegedly, I have no, way of knowing any of this, as far as like nobody calls me up and tells me what's going on. But the fact that there's still a question mark and that we are now, because what the New York Post just did was the New York Post cited a lot of Trump's comments from June, but this is coming from July 10th, that the Israelis are telling Trump, hey, we might not have gotten everything, right? So what are the comments behind that? What that means is things are open for them to go back and do this again. So, I think that anybody paying attention would know that that was always the option. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.